Oh, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Wavy, Stay Wavy TV, back at y'all with another video. Let's get it. I got some breaking news for y'all. So Errol Spence Jr. and the Manny Pacquiao fight has been called off due to Errol Spence suffering an injury in his eye. He does have a tear in his retina. He's going to be having surgery today. And Manny Pacquiao is going to end up fighting Ugas. You know what I'm saying? And in my opinion, guys, this is a huge letdown for boxing fans. And the reason why I say that is because this is the third fight this year in a row that we've had to deal with where there was a huge boxing fight involving titles, involving the top guys at the specific weight classes where fights have been called off. The first fight that was called off was Teofimo Lopez. That fight was called off. And that was due to Teofimo Lopez catching COVID, right? So ironically after that, for the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury fight, ironically, Tyson Fury catches COVID as well. That fight was postponed. So now that fight is taking place in October, right? But this is what's crazy, guys. Tyson Fury and Teofimo Lopez are both signed to Top Rank, right? Bob Arum came out publicly and said that Tyson Fury was vaccinated. So it's just a little strange that this guy allegedly caught COVID, especially because after that was announced that he had COVID, he was seen moving around, doing regular things. I think he took a flight out back to the UK, and it just, you know, for a guy that appears to have COVID, you would think that he'd be quarantining, but he was not quarantining, right? So a lot of people don't believe that Tyson Fury ever caught COVID. He never showed proof that he had it, none of that, right? So now we have Errol Spence Jr., who unfortunately, you know, suffered a tear in his retina. And I'm going to just go ahead and call it what it is, guys. I think like 2 weeks ago, there was leaked footage of Errol Spence Jr. sparring. You know what I'm saying? And in that video of Errol Spence Jr. sparring, Errol Spence was getting touched, man. He was getting roughed up. You know what I'm saying? And this was very concerning for everybody that saw the video because we're not used to seeing Errol Spence Jr. get hit like that, right? So in my opinion, I believe that sparring that we seen, that video, because after that video leaked out, it was taken down everywhere, which means that Errol Spence Jr. and his promotional team, PBC, they obviously made sure that video was taken down because it never was supposed to come out in the first place. But a lot of people were very concerned with how Errol Spence Jr. looked in that sparring video. And I believe that that's what caused Errol Spence to tear his retina. I strongly believe that. I mean, how else would he tear his retina, right? It has to have something to do with him fighting, him preparing for this fight. And Errol Spence Jr. was taking some serious hits in that video, man. Now, what's interesting about this situation is Errol Spence Jr. came out publicly and said that he didn't feel like himself in the Danny Garcia fight, right? He was having a little bit of trouble preparing for the fight. He was having a little bit of trouble in sparring. He said that it didn't feel right. He said everything didn't feel right while he was sparring and preparing for that fight. But he ultimately ended up dominating Danny Garcia in that fight. He pretty much won every round. But I'm going to be honest, I didn't think that to me, that didn't look like the Errol Spence Jr. that I'm used to seeing, but I didn't expect to see that same Errol Spence Jr. Why? Because Errol Spence Jr. was involved in a car accident where he almost lost his life, right? Errol Spence Jr. is lucky to even be able to continue to box. That car accident was horrific, man. It was horrific. Go look at the picture of his face after the car accident. It's on Google. Go look at it for everybody watching this video. That was a horrific car accident. So after 11 months, I wasn't expecting to see the same Errol Spence Jr. in the ring against Danny Garcia. And even after that layoff, even after that car accident, even after a rough training camp where he didn't feel like himself, he still went in that ring and dominated Danny Garcia, one of the top fighters at 147. A guy that a lot of people believe beat Keith Thurman. Danny Garcia is the reason why Keith Thurman hasn't been the same since, because Keith Thurman suffered an injury in that fight with Danny Garcia when Danny Garcia hit him in his elbow. He hasn't had the same power since. But this injury came from sparring, guys. I don't, and this is the thing, right? And for those that subscribe to this channel, I'm going to start making a lot of videos about boxing, because you got a lot of guys that cover the sport of boxing on YouTube that are very biased and they have an agenda, right? You hear these guys constantly talking about boxing being racist and how boxing doesn't do this for black fighters and that, but these guys are doing the same thing. Whenever it comes to covering topics about black fighters, you got these YouTubers out here that they don't want to say the truth because of their affiliation with the specific fighter. And if you're subscribed to my channel, you're not going to get that. I'm going to keep it 100. I'm going to tell y'all what it is. You actually got guys on YouTube that cover the sport of boxing, right? That are telling people Errol Spence Jr. did not suffer that tear in his retina from sparring. So where else did it come from? Where else did it come from? How else did Errol Spence Jr. tear his retina? Did he tear it by having his AC on his? Did he tear it by having the AC being blown in his face? Did he tear it by sleeping on his eyeball? How else did he tear his retina? Guys, to tear your retina, there has to be a serious hit to your eye. The eyes are very delicate. So for these guys to come out here and act like that leaked video of Errol Spence getting roughed up has nothing to do with his retina being teared, that's bullshit. And what you're doing is these guys are exposing themselves for being biased. The same way that they like to call out these white guys for being biased. What do they call it? Old media? You guys are just like them, bro. There's nothing wrong with calling it how you see it. Errol Spence Jr. was roughed up in that sparring video, and that 100% has something to do with his retina being torn. It has to. It has to. Even if it's not that specific clip, it happened in sparring, bro. How else would it happen? His retina wasn't torn before the fight with Danny Garcia, was it? Okay then. His retina got torn during sparring. He got roughed up. Y'all riding Errol Spence dick so much that you're scared to say, oh, well, you know, yeah, the sparring has something to do with it. Y'all riding the man dick that much, bruh? I mean, come on, man. Ain't nobody saying that Errol Spence, and that's the thing, bro. Y'all haven't heard me say one time, oh, this might be the end of Errol Spence Jr.'s career. Nah, I ain't say that. I most definitely think that we're going to see Errol Spence Jr. back in the ring. I mean, he came back from a car accident where he nearly lost his life and dominated, won every round. He's most definitely going to be back as long as the doctors clear him. But we got to keep it 100. Errol Spence Jr. was getting beat. He ain't going to say he was getting beat up bad, but he was getting roughed up and he was getting touched in that sparring video that got leaked. He was getting hit with some serious shots. And that has something to do with his retina being torn. That's why we're not going to be able to see Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao fight this month. That's why. So if y'all want to hear some authentic boxing news where a nigga gonna keep it 100, man, click that subscribe button, man. Stop supporting these suckers, man. Because what y'all gotta understand is a lot of these guys, bro, they're dick riders. A lot of these guys, they're afraid to mess up their relationship with specific boxers. You know what I'm saying? And I want to say this, man. Shout out to Barbershop Conversations, man. Shout out to Fred. I'm a huge fan of Fred. and Barbershop Conversations, man. Go by 9 Wise, man, the movie, man. Shout out to Fred. Huge fan of Barbershop Conversations. Salute to Fred. But like I'm saying though, bro, a lot of these media guys on YouTube, because of their affiliation with specific boxers, they're biased and they're not going to give you real news. They're going to twist the story in every way to protect their fighter. And I understand that, but that's not fair to the boxing fans, bro. You got to keep it real. If my channel blows up and I build a relationship with Errol Spence, I'm still going to tell the world, I think that sparring video has something to do with Errol Spence being injured. I don't give a fuck how Errol Spence feel. If Errol Spence feels some type of way and he called me, I'm going to say, look, Errol, this is how I feel. If it's not true, it's not true, but that's how I feel. It's our job as YouTubers to cover stories and give our opinion. I'm not going to not give my opinion for fear of somebody feeling some type of way. Fuck how you niggas feel. And that's what I respect about Fred, bruh. When you watch Barbershop Conversations, Fred lets everybody, whether they agree with him or not agree with him, call into a show. Guys, I was on a YouTuber show yesterday, right? And I put in the comment section, I said, that sparring clip with Errol Spence Jr. has something to do with him injuring his eye. The owner of the YouTube channel placed me on timeout, guys, for giving my opinion. I didn't disrespect this nigga. I didn't call this nigga out of his name. I gave my opinion, an opinion that many people are saying. The owner of the video put me on timeout. Guys, a lot of these guys that's covering boxing, bro, are biased. They're biased. So with that being said, man, I'm going to be making a lot of more videos about boxing. You can expect a video about boxing on my channel pretty much every week. I will be giving updates on the sport of boxing because I'm a huge boxing fan. Boxing is my favorite sport. And I'm going to keep it real, bro, because I don't like what's going on YouTube with these boxing, with these dudes that's covering the sport of boxing, so I'm going to do it myself. And I've been making videos about boxing. But now it's just time to take it to the next level, man. So with that being said, man, it's your boy Wavy. I'm out this bitch. Skirt.